It's described as a shared problem between Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica. I'm not speaking about who cooks the best curried goat or who produces the best music. Actually, no, it's the war against crime. But this is an interesting twist. Following the CARICOM symposium as violence as a public health emergency, to which actually Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Holness, last year in Trinidad and Tobago for our 60th anniversary of independence celebrations, he said he agrees actually with crime being a public health emergency. Well, we're hearing coming out of Jamaica now that from the beginning of 2023 up until April 22nd, 2023, murders committed in the country have been reduced by 17% compared to 2022, with overall major crimes seeing a 20% reduction. So to have a better understanding as to the government's operations in Jamaica and perhaps their policies as to what they've done and what they're doing that has led to this reduction, I'm joined by a colleague of mine. She's a new broadcaster at Radio Jamaica 94 FM, Miss Dadrian Gordon. She's with us via telephone this morning. Hello, Miss Gordon.
Hi, good morning.
Well, thank you.
Also, sorry for the time difference. I swear it was 6 o'clock where you are right now. It's 6 o'clock in Jamaica.
It's absolutely fine. No worries about that. But thank you very much still for joining me this morning. That announcement by the Minister of National Security, Dr. Rish Chang, that murders have been reduced by 17% for this time period compared to last year. That's absolutely amazing, especially with overall crimes, major crimes being down by 20%. What has the government been doing different? Have we seen different policies? Have we seen different measures being undertaken by the government and by extension the national security apparatus in Jamaica?
Not to take anything away from what has been done or what is being done to assist in the reduction of major crimes in Jamaica, but sometimes when we look at the statistics, it may seem a little bit off to us because we're looking at on an individual basis, as in parish by parish, number by number. So sometimes when we break down those crime statistic numbers, it could just be there were 20 murders in a period last year, and this year there are 18 or 19. The one less does count in terms of percentage. So sometimes when you look at it in the overall picture of a percentage, it is not a drastic decrease or increase, but when you do work out the percentage, there is still a reduction. So we'd have to, quantify that to say, yes, murders have declined, but it's not a significant drop in some of those cases. But as it relates to what is being done, I know the government has been using a lot of zones of special operations and states of public emergencies, sometimes not being supported by the opposition because they'd like something more concrete in terms of a crime plan, but they are attributing this increased policing, just going into communities a little bit more, other policing activities as a part of the reason why there is a reduction in murders in some parishes. And also, to add to that too, they're going after gangs. Gangs and lottery scamming also attributed to a lot of what is causing the problem in Jamaica. And so the government has been really, really heavy. The Prime Minister, the National Security Minister, the police forces, security forces in general, police and the soldiers, they've collaborated a whole lot more to target gangs because gangs seem to be a major part of the problem for us, and lottery scamming also.
Well, apart from that, the continued use of the states of public emergencies, where various, I suppose, provinces in Jamaica, and please correct me if I'm wrong, have been under states of emergency. Has that worked well? Has that worked in favor of the government? Because the public themselves, have they been welcoming to these measures?
In the initial stages, I would say the state of emergency had the most effect. When you hear of a declaration as such, it causes you to pretty much pull up your socks or whatever it is that you were doing wrong, or if your house wasn't in order, then you spring into action to get things done. So in the initial stages of a state of emergency, yes, everybody's on their P's and Q's. Having it being used over an extended period of time, just the renewal of a state of emergency time over time, I think personally the desired effect is not there as much. People aren't as sharp They don't respond, they don't pull up as much as they ought to, because number one, the declaration is in so many different areas at once. Sometimes it's hard to really get the kind of manpower you want in these specific areas to effectively carry it. And that's my personal view, that is, because you have to have police officers on the ground doing regular policing. You still need to have officers responding to your everyday robbery, your everyday crime, your everyday domestic violence, your everyday traffic issues, your everyday in-office police work. So to have the security forces in the kind of numbers that you want them to go into communities to carry out these kind of activities in states of emergency, then you don't have the numbers that you'd want. But I do say what it does, though, is give them certain powers under the law to be able to carry out certain operations without penalization or backlash or it being unconstitutional. So it gives you the power to go into communities, to go into homes, to carry out searches, to do raids and stuff like that, to detain persons you think might be suspects in particular crimes, and to take them in until you have additional or supporting information to complete your investigation.
Let's speak for one of the factors that you just mentioned, and that is the Jamaican police force. In terms of resourcing, even human resourcing and staffing, would you say that they are well equipped and well resourced to deal with the crime situation in Jamaica? I appreciate how at the beginning of the interview you actually put the statistics into context. And with that in mind, do you think that the Jamaican police force, they're well equipped and well resourced to deal with this evolving situation?
Along with what the police need in terms of resources, is also proper compensation for them to feel like going into the battlefield to challenge these criminals is worth it for them. Because we also have a changing face in terms of the criminals nowadays. We say this among ourselves as colleagues all the time, that 20 years ago, 15 years ago, if two people had an issue and they probably saw the guy you had the issue with, he was walking with his mom or his daughter or his grandmother or something, his woman, he wouldn't dare attempt to do certain things because of the respect he had for your lady, for your child. So you're dealing with a different set of people right now in terms of these criminals. They don't care. As a matter of fact, before saying, hey, let me not do this because he's with his child, he's actually going to target the child or the mother now because it might hurt a little bit more. So when you're dealing with criminals with that kind of mindset, the police force themselves, they know that their approach has to be different because these guys seem to have no heart. So if they're going to risk their lives going into situations with guys who really don't care anymore, then not only do they need the proper resources, but they need to also know that what I'm working for and risking my life for at the end of the day is worth it. So it's a combination of factors. In terms of physical resources itself, they are putting things in place. Yes, I think we still need more numbers on the ground. That's most important. Having more persons join the force and more police officers in the force who are actually there for the right reasons, because you do find people who manage to escape loopholes who are not fit to be police officers, but they somehow manage to find that loophole and get in because they're criminals themselves. How they're able to do that, I can't really say. But we need to have more manpower on the ground, definitely, and to equip the police forces with the proper resources. Because I can tell you, these guys nowadays, they have bigger weapons. They have heavier artillery sometimes than the police forces. And when they do happen to intercept, coming into the country at the airport, the wharfs and stuff like that, the police force don't have these kind of weapons. They're heavier weapons than what they are equipped with. So, and for everyday policing, you would not expect high-powered weapons of this caliber to deal with just regular civilians. But sometimes it feels like these criminals are going to war while the police are just trying to maintain law and order. So I don't even know if there is a situation where they can get heavier artillery based on what the guys in the field, the criminals in the field have.
I think, Ms. Gordon, we've only concretized the topic this morning. Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica shared problem, because everything that you've just said, I think the viewing public here in T&T certainly could relate to and could understand. But whilst we can speak about the operations on the ground, there are other operations that are all part of the fight against the underworld. What about the judicial system in Jamaica? Are there any issues there? I mean, I can start a conversation with you about the issues of our judicial system here in T&T, and it'll take, well, a lot longer than you'd probably like. But what is the situation there in Jamaica as it relates to the judicial system?
Well, I know changes are also being made, legislative changes that the government would like to see rewards from. So apart from, like the ZOSO bill and law reform, special operations and stuff like that, I know they're trying to do other things to also put a damper on this ridiculous monster of crime. So looking at proceeds of crime act, some people have unexplained wealth. How are we going to deal with that? Because even if it is that you can't maybe catch them red-handed with the guns, committing the acts, you know personally that these people, some of these people, they weren't able to acquire this kind of property and this kind of wealth had it not been for something that's illegal. And so making legislative changes right across the board, the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency, MOCA, they're doing their own reform in that organization, trafficking in persons. A big one for the government was the Firearms Act, the Firearm Prohibition, Restriction and Regulations Act, the Anti-Gang Amendment Act, the Bail Act. You're hoping to deter persons from committing certain crimes once these laws have been reformed and they're put into place. Because, for instance, the Firearms Act, if you're caught with an illegal weapon off the bat, that's an automatic 15 years. So they're hoping that making changes in terms of giving these criminals more time, that once you hear of the possible time that you might be spending in jail, it will deter you. Before even some of these laws are passed, having a gun amnesty to say, hey, now is the opportunity before the Firearms Act go into place. Now is your time to bring in your illegal weapons. Targeting gangs, heavy. We have a number of gang cases right now in the courts. Uchen's gang, Wandan gang. The Wandan now is at the stage of sentencing. So we've been through that whole process of witnesses in court and going through that part of it. Uchen's, you have a number of convictions there. So targeting the gangs after making changes to the Anti-Gang Act, the Firearms Act, the Bail Act, to know that, listen, you're spending a long time in here, so hopefully those things will deter people from doing things that are against the law. Ms.
Gordon, could you just clarify one thing? Did you just say that if you were found with an illegal firearm on you, it's automatically 15 years?
Automatic 15 years. Those are some of the changes in the new Firearms Act. They're hoping that these increased fines will scare you into not wanting to.
I think we could probably adopt some of that ideas that are being actually discussed there in Jamaica. Now, as a citizen in Jamaica, yes, you are a news broadcaster, so you may actually see things and understand things a bit more in terms of context, especially when you get down to the detail and study it. But as a citizen in Jamaica, could you say, or would you say, given what we're hearing from the Minister of National Security, the Honorable Dr. Horace Chang, that you are seeing a change, that you are seeing shifting tides, and that there has been an improvement as per the situation on the ground? Difficult question.
I'm sighing heavily. I'm sighing heavily because outside of wearing my news broadcaster hat, I personally am a scared citizen. Mm-hmm. Just in doing everyday things, I'm legitimately scared because, like I mentioned in one of your previous questions, just doing everyday things seems scary because there is no regard for time and place for criminals anymore, and so you don't know walking into a supermarket when it's going to be that establishment that is targeted. Now, because of certain restrictions and tightening, especially with lottery scamming, these criminals are finding other ways to fund their illegal operations. So I don't know if you would have been aware of the attacks now on private security companies making cash deliveries to ATMs and
Yes.
banks and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So you don't know. As a matter of fact, being in a line of traffic with a security vehicle from that specific company, people automatically get scared. Being in close proximity to a specific security company, like their vehicles, people automatically start to feel scared because of the increased attacks on these security vehicles. We're seeing, you're in a supermarket and gunmen just come in and just hold everybody at ransom, demanding cash, expecting, especially money transfer outlets and stuff like that. You don't know. So that for me as an average citizen sitting in traffic, I don't know when a bike is going to ride up and maybe want to target the person next to me, but in firing wildly, I could be caught in the crossfire. You just don't know. So for me, on the ground, personally as a citizen, I feel scared. I think I echo the sentiments of quite a number of people in Jamaica too, that they don't feel just okay with doing regular errands like running to the supermarket.
It's certainly, again, something that we could relate to. But my final question to you, Ms. Gordon, what has been the public's opinion or the public's reception towards the CARICOM symposium, Violence as a Public Health Emergency? Do Jamaicans see the benefit of it? Do they see it as an avenue for possibly greater strides? Or has there been a bit of, I suppose, apprehension?
You know what? I feel like anything that will ultimately help us all in the long run, because I'll go ahead and say we were the leaders, or we are the leaders in crime in the Caribbean, in CARICOM. I think, do I want to put us in the leadership position? I don't know. I know our numbers are pretty high compared to, other countries in CARICOM.
Well, I'll let you know,
But now
TNT is
that
sixth in the world. I think we're above Jamaica right now when you
you're
put it
above
in
us, oh
context.
wow. Well, and it's not a race that we want to compete for. That's so
Not
weird.
at all.
This is not even a battle we're trying to fight to win. Yeah, we'll talk about the music and whose food is nice and stuff like that. But this is not a race that we're trying to win. But now that other countries are also there has been spillover. So you're finding criminals from Jamaica going to other countries and vice versa. There needs to be a concerted effort. So taking that approach towards doing something collaborative to ensure that we all can see the results, that would be widely supported, because it's something that we're all trying to nip in the bud. So anything that we can do, whatever issues or differences or whatever debates that we may be battling personally, this is where all the attention needs to be placed. All the focus needs to go here. So in that regard, yes, I feel like the community would like for us to come together to ensure that we can all benefit from seeing a reduction in major crimes, because that's a stain on our image that doesn't augur well for us, because we have so much more that's going on. I mean, you having your carnival season not long ago, and to see the amount of people that came in,
Yeah.
Jamaica adopting the beloved carnival of Trinidad, and we are reaping some of those same benefits. To see how much we can collaborate and grow from just having, common ground on certain things, collaborating to ensure that we maintain that kind of international presence, that people just want to come to our country just to enjoy what we have to offer and to be integrated and a part of our fabric. I mean, those are the kind of rewards we want. So any kind of collaboration to get us to that place, we're on board.
Shared problem, but shared solutions and shared ideals of where we'd like to be. Ms. Gordon, Ms. Dadrian Gordon, I want to thank you very much for joining me this morning. I know we probably got you up a bit earlier, but I'll tell you what, enjoy the sunrise.
It's just rising for me, and you're far advanced.
Ms. Dadrian Gordon, thank you
you.
so much. Have a great day.
Have a good one, too, and I hope we can get to that place we're trying to.
Certainly, we will.
Most definitely. Mm-hmm.
Goodbye.